Life's remote control. 4 words that turned a 5-minute cameo into Christopher Walken's most quoted philosophical performance. But nobody in that fake electronics store could have predicted he'd become the internet's favorite mystic. Wait, this story starts with Adam Sandler having a complete meltdown. June 2005. Click is in pre-production, and Sandler has a massive problem. The character of Morty, the mysterious inventor who gives the magic remote, needs to be someone audiences will never forget. I need someone who can make selling a TV remote feel like revealing the secrets of the universe, Sandler tells director Frank Carasi. They've auditioned dozens of character actors. Too obvious, too fake, too much like they're trying to be mystical. That's when Christopher Walken's name comes up. The scary guy from Pulp Fiction, Carasi asks, for a family comedy? Think about it, Sandler grins. Nobody expects Christopher Walken to be wise and helpful. That's exactly why it'll work. Here's what Adam Sandler doesn't know. He's about to discover Christopher Walken's secret superpower, the ability to make any dialogue sound like ancient wisdom. The meeting happens at a props warehouse in Glendale. They've built a fake electronics store for the film, complete with TVs, stereos, and the magical universal remote that drives the plot. Christopher Walken walks in, looking around at the fake merchandise with genuine curiosity. So what does Morty do exactly? He asks. He's basically God disguised as a Best Buy employee, Sandler explained. But he can't act like God. He has to act like he's just really good at customer service. Christopher Walken gets it immediately. He knows everything, but pretends to know nothing, Walken realizes. He's hiding his power behind normalcy. That's when Adam Sandler knows he's found his Morty. Because Christopher Walken understands something most actors miss. The most powerful people often disguise their abilities behind ordinary facades. Show me the dialogue, Walken says. They hand him the script pages, Morty's first scene. He's supposed to offer Michael Newman, Sandler's character, a universal remote that controls life itself. Most actors would play this mystically, dramatically, obviously magical. Christopher Walken reads it like he's actually selling electronics. You might want the extended warranty on this one, he says, referring to the life-controlling device. But somehow, the way he delivers it makes extended warranty sound like cosmic advice about the nature of existence. Adam Sandler realizes he's witnessing something special. That's exactly right, he tells Walken. Morty thinks he's just being helpful, but he's actually changing someone's entire relationship with reality. 45 minutes after Sandler said, "You're Morty," Christopher Walken owns the character completely. But what happens during filming makes everyone realize they've stumbled onto something magical. The electronic store set becomes Christopher Walken's temple of wisdom. Every line about remote control features sounds like philosophy. Every customer service gesture carries the weight of universal truth. This button here, he says, pointing to the pause function, that's for when you need a moment to think. It's practical advice about a fictional device, but Walken's delivery makes it feel like life guidance from an enlightened master. Adam Sandler finds himself actually taking notes during take. Christopher is accidentally creating a self-help seminar, he whispers to Carasi. The crew starts gathering around the monitor to watch Walken work. They're not just observing a performance. They're receiving wisdom about time, choice, and the consequences of trying to control life. Some people want to fast forward through the hard parts, Morty explains, but then they miss the lesson. Christopher Walken delivers this like he's sharing personal experience from centuries of watching humans make the same mistake. The magic isn't in the remote control. It's in Walken's complete commitment to Morty's cosmic understanding. He's not acting mystical, observes script supervisor Janet Hershenson. He actually seems mystical. But here's the genius. Walken plays Morty as genuinely caring about his customer. This isn't a trickster god or manipulative figure. This is someone who gives people exactly what they asked for, knowing they'll learn from their choices. Morty loves humanity, Walken explains between takes. That's why he's willing to let them make mistakes. The approach creates something unprecedented in family comedy, a character who's simultaneously funny and genuinely wise. When Click is released, critics expect typical Adam Sandler broad humor. Instead, they find a film with surprising emotional depth, largely because of Christopher Walken's 5 minutes of screen time. Walken creates a character who could sell you a warranty extension or explain the meaning of existence with equal credibility, writes Roger Ebert. But the real impact happens after the film's release. Life's remote control becomes an internet phenomenon. People start quoting Morty's wisdom about pause buttons and fast forward function. Philosophy professors begin using clips from the film to discuss concepts about time and choice. Christopher Walken accidentally created the most accessible explanation of free will ever put in a movie, notes ethics professor Dr. Michael Sandel. The character spawns countless memes and motivational posts. Morty's advice about not fast forwarding through difficult moments becomes genuinely helpful guidance for people struggling with impatience. Sometimes life needs to play at regular speed, becomes a rallying cry for mindfulness advocates. Adam Sandler realizes he's participated in something more significant significant than typical comedy. Christopher turned our silly premise into actual wisdom, he admits. Morty's advice works in real life. Young actors start studying the performance to understand how Walken makes exposition feel like revelation. He doesn't deliver information, explains acting coach Stella Adler. He shares knowledge. There's a difference. The technique influences how other performers approach mystical or wise character roles. Christopher showed that real wisdom sounds conversational, not pompous, observes actor Oscar Isaac. Directors begin specifically seeking Christopher Walken energy for characters who need to seem both approachable and otherworldly. He created a template for the helpful mystic, notes casting director Sarah Finn. But perhaps the most remarkable impact is on Christopher Walken himself. Playing Morty taught me something about my own acting, he reflects. I learned I could be nurturing and intense simultaneously. This realization influences his subsequent role, leading to more complex characters who blend menace with genuine care. Click proves that Christopher Walken's most powerful performances happen when he's helping rather than threatening. The electronics store mystic becomes as iconic as any of his villains. 45 minutes after Adam Sandler said, "You're Morty," Christopher Walken had created a character who makes universal remote controls feel like tools of enlightenment. Life's remote control, indeed. But the real magic was watching Christopher Walken transform customer service into cosmic wisdom. Sometimes the most profound insights come from the most ordinary conversation. When delivered by someone who understands that everything matters, even selling warranties on reality itself. But the story doesn't end when cameras stopped rolling, because what happened after Click changed how Hollywood thinks about wisdom, comedy, and the power of unexpected casting choice. Within days of the film's release, Christopher Walken's Morty becomes more than just a movie character. He becomes a cultural phenomenon that transcends typical comedy movie impact. I started getting stopped on the street by people who wanted to discuss the meaning of the remote control, Walken admit, not fans asking for autographs, but genuinely seeking advice about life choices. The transformation is unprecedented. Christopher Walken, known for playing villains and intense characters, suddenly becomes associated with gentle wisdom and helpful guidance. Christopher accidentally became America's favorite philosopher, observes cultural critic Susan Sontag. People trust Morty's advice because it comes from someone who usually plays dangerous characters. This paradox makes the character even more compelling. Audiences expect menace from Christopher Walken, so when he offers genuine help instead, the impact is profound. Philosophy departments at universities start showing clips from Click in ethics classes. Walken's explanation of how the remote works becomes a perfect metaphor for understanding free will versus determinism, explains Harvard professor Michael Sandel. Students respond to Morty's teachings more enthusiastically than traditional philosophical text. Christopher made complex ideas accessible through simple customer service analogy, notes one professor. The electronic store scenes become viral video content years before YouTube creates systems to support such phenomena. People share clips of Morty explaining the pause button, the rewind function, the dangers of fast forwarding through life. Life doesn't come with a remote control becomes a popular saying, ironically inspired by a movie about a magical remote control. Mental health professionals begin referencing the character in therapy session. Morty's advice about not skipping the difficult parts resonates with patients struggling with avoidance, explains therapist Dr. Judith Beck. The character provides a non-threatening way to discuss serious psychological concepts like mindfulness and accept. Patients relate to the idea of wanting to fast forward through pain, notes another therapist. Morty helps them understand why that's counterproductive. Adam Sandler finds himself fielding interview questions about philosophy rather than comedy. I never expected to be discussing the nature of time and choice, he laughs, but Christopher turned our comedy into something deeper. The experience influences Sandler's subsequent project, leading him to seek more meaningful material that blends humor with genuine insight. Click taught me that audiences are hungry for substance, he explained. They want to laugh, but they also want to think. Meanwhile, Christopher Walken begins receiving offers for more wise mentor roles. Directors realize his ability to make ordinary dialogue sound profound could be applied to various character types. Christopher showed us that wisdom doesn't have to be pompous or obvious, notes director Frank Carrace. Sometimes the most helpful advice comes from unexpected sources. The performance also influences how other actors approach mystical or supernatural characters. Walken proved that magical characters work best when they feel completely human, observes fantasy film expert Dr. Fantasy Direct. Young performers study his technique for making extraordinary circumstances feel natural and relatable. He never lets you forget that Morty genuinely cares about his customer, explains acting coach Lee Strasberg. That emotional truth makes everything else believable. The character's lasting appeal demonstrates something important about Christopher Walken's range as a performer. People think of him as this intense, scary actor, notes film critic Roger Ebert, but Morty reveals his capacity for genuine warmth and nurturing. nurturing. This recognition leads to more complex roles that showcase different aspects of his personality. Click becomes a turning point where audiences realize Christopher Walken can be both intimidating and comforting, depending on what the character required. 20 years later, Morty's advice about life's remote control remains relevant in discussions about technology's impact on human experience. Christopher's warnings about fast-forwarding through life feel prophetic now, observes technology ethicist Dr. Sherry Turkle. He predicted how digital convenience might make us impatient with real-time experiences. Social media posts regularly feature quotes from the character, shared by people seeking wisdom about patience, acceptance, and the importance of experiencing life at its natural pace. Morty memes become a regular feature of motivational content online. The character proves that Christopher Walken's greatest strength isn't just his intensity or unpredictability. It's his complete commitment to whatever truth the character represents, whether that's menace or wisdom. Christopher approaches every role with the same level of seriousness, observes director Tim Burton. That's why his wise characters feel as authentic as his villain. The electronic store mystic demonstrates that great performances can emerge from the most unlikely combinations of actor and material. Nobody expected Christopher Walken to become a source of life advice through a family comedy about remote control. But 45 minutes after Adam Sandler said, "You're Morty," that's exactly what happened. Christopher Walken owned magic by making it feel completely ordinary. And in doing so, he reminded audiences that the most extraordinary insights often come disguised as everyday conversation. Life's remote control became more than a movie prop. It became a metaphor for the choices we make about how to experience our own existence, all delivered through Christopher Walken's unique ability to make customer service sound like cosmic wisdom. The cultural resonance of Morty extends into unexpected areas. Business schools use the character as an example of consultative selling that creates genuine value. Morty demonstrates that the best salespeople sell solutions that improve lives, explains marketing professor Philip Kotler. Corporate training programs reference the Morty approach when teaching customer relations. The character influences discussions about technology, ethics, and responsible development of powerful tools. Morty gives people what they ask for while warning about consequences, observes technology ethicist Dr. Kathy O'Neill. That's a model for responsible innovation. Silicon Valley executives reference the character when discussing user interface design and product responsibility. Religious leaders find wisdom in the character's approach to helping others make choices. Morty respects free will while providing guidance, notes theologian Dr. Richard Rohr. That reflects profound spiritual understanding. Self-help authors cite Morty's philosophy in books about mindfulness and present moment awareness. The remote control becomes a perfect metaphor for avoiding difficult experience, writes teacher John Kabat-Zinn. The performance demonstrates Christopher Walken's ability to embed profound truth within simple interaction. He makes wisdom conversational rather than preachy, notes spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle. Directors begin seeking performers who can deliver meaningful content without seeming obvious about it. The Walken effect became a casting goal, admits casting director Francine Maisler. 23 years later, Morty's advice continues resonating with new generations, discovering the character through streaming. Young people quote the character's lines about not fast-forwarding through difficult experiences when discussing mental health. Morty taught me to stop trying to skip the hard part becomes common sentiment in self-improvement community. The electronic store mystic proves Christopher Walken's greatest performances emerge from seemingly simple material. Christopher finds depths other actors wouldn't notice, observes director Alexander Payne. He sees philosophical potential in selling remote control. 45 minutes after Adam Sandler said, "You're Morty," Christopher Walken created a character who transforms discussions about free will, technology, ethics, and wisdom itself. The fake electronic store became a temple of practical philosophy. Christopher Walken became proof that powerful teachers often disguise lessons as ordinary conversations about everyday subjects. Life's remote control, operated by someone who understands the most important button, lets experiences unfold naturally.